Welcome back to another video. Now today we're going to be creating a server-sided timer. Now what this will do is it will be a timer that goes at the top of your screen to maybe say how long you have left in your game before like the round cuts. So if anybody ever played Bullet, which is one of the games that I created ages ago, I've gotten way better at programming now from then, but still I had a timer at the top of the screen, and that basically said, so when you're in a round, you were to play the round, and then once the timer ran out, once the timer went to 0 seconds and 0 minutes, it swaps to another map. Now we're going to be creating something like that where you have the timer and it's a server-sided timer, which means that when the player joins into the game, they will start off the timer. So when the server starts, that timer will stay the whole time. So a couple of problems that I've had with that Bullet game, especially with the timer, was that I'd have somebody join at this time, and then and say the timer is 3 minutes long. I'd have somebody join this time, timer starts counting down from 3 minutes. Then I'd have somebody join through at 1 minute 20 for the person who is already in the game, but then this new person would join in and they would have 3 minutes again. And that was the problem. That was causing errors in my code. So what we're doing is we're basically transferring that timer to the server, doing everything on the server side, so that anytime somebody else joins into your game halfway through you've created, halfway through the timer is running or halfway through the round, it would still stay that certain time. It will still stay that original time. So let's get started, shall we? Okay, so to start off with, I'm going to insert a script into server-script service because we want to put it on the server side, and server-script service is on the server side. So if anybody remembers from my Python tutorials, at one point I showed you how to do it where it counts up to a certain amount of numbers using a while true loop. Now we're basically going to be doing that, but we're going to be counting down. But I'll give you an example of that. So of the counting upwards. So first of all, we're going to create a variable, and we want to give that value to 0. So we want to basically get the number 0, and then because that's what we're going to count up from. And then I'm going to do a while true loop. Now while true loops are a little bit different in Lua, but this is how you write it in Lua. Yeah, they're different to Python, but still, this is how you write in Lua, and we're doing a Lua tutorial today. So basically, to add a value to the current value of x, the way that you would do it is by doing x, so we're changing the value of x to x plus 1. Now, this is kind of weird, and it's not weird, but you know, well, what I'm trying to say is there's a way to shorten it down. So, but basically, look, so if we were to do plus equals 1, that is basically doing the exact same thing as what I just wrote with the x equals x plus 1. So we're taking x, changing x value to its concurrent value, and then plussing 1 onto it. So that means if this was 0, if we were to just do x plus x equals 1 or something, x plus 1 or something like that, it would be 1 the whole time. But what we are doing is basically this number x could be 2, and we'd still add on 1 instead of like turning the 2 down to 1, or changing it to 1. So basically we are taking x's number, and we are changing its value to the current number plus 1. So we're going up 1. Now we know that we have this running, so it'll be going up and up and up and up and up. You can see that we can get a number that we're going to stop at. So we can say if x is equivalent to, and then whatever number we want to do. So let's do 100. Let's do 100. Then, so we do an if statement. Then we're using break. Now breaks the loop, so it stops it from running. So if we were to see this, if we were to actually print x each time the loop goes round, we should see all the numbers coming up, and then it should go down to 99. There you go. So the reason why it's gone to 99 is because we have said when it goes exactly to 100. So when the number goes to 100, it's going to stop the loop before it can print it. If you wanted to print that, then there are many different ways you can do it. There's one way where you can just literally hit print at x after you break the loop. Well, actually no, hang on, it has to be before. But still, you can print x there, and that would print 100. You should see. There you go. Now we have the number 100. Or you could make it so that if the number is greater than 100. So if the number is greater than 100, so if it goes to like 101, so if it's larger than 100, it will break the loop, which means when it gets to 101, it would stop, which means it counts 100. So now that we have this in mind, we can use this to advantage to add a wait 1 second, and then you should see that we'll have the numbers being counting up. So as you can see, now we have seconds. So now it's counting each different second down. Well, it's counting each different second. Now, sorry if I sound a bit ill. I probably am, but still, anyway. As you can see, we are counting upwards, so but we want to count downwards because we want to go from 59 seconds down to 0 seconds so that we can start again. So the way that we can do this is we can do minus equals. So instead of adding 1 like that, we are minusing 1, so we're taking away 1. And then now we can change this to 59, for example. And then we can say if x is under 0, well, if it's under 0, then break the loop. So if 0 is larger than x, then break the loop. So we want to do this so that we see the 0, because if we don't see the 0, kind of like a little bit weird. So it'll be like a timer that as soon as it gets to 0, it will just go back to the next, or it's like skipping a second, and you don't want that to happen. So we should see now it will count down from 59 seconds. There you go. But if we were to do that's basically what we want to be doing. But then it'll break it when it goes down to 0, and we'd print 0. So now we can come ahead and start running this to do the seconds and the minutes, so we can actually start creating our system. So using our knowledge from this, we can remove x, and we can create 2 values. Local minutes equals 0. Well, how many minutes do we do? Let's start off with 5, and then local seconds equals we're gonna have 59 seconds. So because we have 0, and then we're gonna count down. So I'm not gonna add the 60 because it'll look weird otherwise, because you don't go 0 to 60, you go 0 to 59. So we want to get seconds minus 1, then we want to say if seconds is smaller than x, smaller than 0, and then we want to print seconds. And then now you should see that it count down perfectly, just the exact same, because we just changed the values. But if we wanted to set the minutes to the seconds, what we can do now is we can print the minutes ... colon ... So we're basically concatenating, I can't say it, but we're basically bringing these combined into like a timer format. So we are connecting minutes to a timer, to the colon, and then seconds afterwards. So we're going to see minutes, colon, seconds. So we should see, there you go, perfectly. Now you can see it's counting down just like this just as seconds, counting down and down and down. But now, when we get down to 0, it's just going to break the loop, which is not what we want. So we can basically, we can say when it goes down to 0, we can reset the seconds back to 59, and we can reset minutes. We can minus minutes. So we can do seconds equals 59, and then minutes, we want to add 1, minus 1, sorry. So we do the same thing we did up here by taking its current value and then minusing 1. And then now you should see, if I change this to 10 seconds, you should see that it starts going down. Now, as you can see, there's a problem here which doesn't look that realistic, where it's just, it goes to a single number, but you should see, look, we get 5 minutes, 49, there you go. So back up again. But as you can see in these ones, there's 5, but usually when you have a timer, you have 0, 5. So we want to fix that. So what we want to do is we want to go if seconds is under 10, then we can, after this, we can basically say get seconds number, but we can put a 0 in front of it. So we can change, we can basically change seconds to, we can basically change seconds to 0 ... seconds. So we're basically changing it to be like that. So look, as you can see, we're basically adding a 0 in front of it. So now you can see there, don't worry about these errors, by the way, they're just my plugins. But as you can see, now we have the 0, 0, which is good, which is what we want. But now you may be wondering, well, that's cool and all, that's printing out, but we want to actually change it to be at the top of somebody's screen. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to create a value inside of replicated storage. So we want a string value. Let's name this value timer. And then in this, we want to grab that. So we want to go local timer equals game.replicatedStorage.timer. So we want to grab it basically. And then now, when we come to here, we want to do, instead of printing it, we want to change that value. So we want to do timer.value equals, we want to do minutes ... colon, just like we did last time, colon, ... seconds. And then now you should see that it, doesn't print out here, and it prints out, well, it doesn't print it out, but it changes this value. As you can see down there in the bottom right corner, you can see now we have the timer being inside of this. Now that we have this inside of replicated storage, how are we going to bring it to the client? How are we going to bring it to the user? Well, the way that we're going to do that is we're going to create our GUI at the top of our screen, and we are going to basically say, change this value to the value inside of replicated storage, and when that changes, change it again. So you'll see what I mean. So first of all, we're going to want to create our actual GUI that has the text on it. So I'm going to insert a text label, and I'm going to, you can do this to how you want. I'm going to simply change it to how I would like. So I'm going to scale the text, change it to Gotham Black, and change the text to, let's just do this, like that. And then I'm going to come ahead and change these to 3, change this to 1, 2, 5. Perfect. And position this in the center, like that. And then I'm going to change the background transparency to 0 so that I don't have a background. And then I'm going to change the text color to white. Okay, cool. Now we have the timer and it looks pretty nice. we can come into it, we come into the timer and insert a local script. Now inside this local script, what we want to do is we want to first of all grab that timer and put it inside the variable. So we can do local timer equals game.replicate storage.timer. And then now that we have this, what we can do is we can basically grab the parent's text, so the text label's text, and then change it to the timer's value. So we can do script.parent. Oh, that is not what we want. Script.parent. And then now we can do .text equals timer.value. So what we're doing is we're going above, so we're taking the parent of this script. So yeah, this script, we're going to its parent, and we are changing its text to, the timer's value. And then this is all cool and all, but as you can see, when I join into the game, you'll see that it starts off perfectly fine. But then when I come to here, you can see that's changing, but this isn't, and that's very confusing. But that's because we've only started it. So when we've set it when the player joins into the game. So when this all loads, that's when we're going to start it off. That's when it changes the value. So, but basically, it starts off like that, and we haven't actually carried it going. So what we want to do for that is we want to get the timer, and we want to do something called get property changed signal. Get property changed signal, just like that. We want to say if the value changes. So basically, we're saying get the timer, and if the value changes, then connect to that and run a function through it. And now we can do the same thing we did there by doing script.parent.text equals timer.value. Perfect. Now when I join, I keep trying to do that because that's what you should always get into the habit of doing, publishing it. But as you can see now, we have a perfectly working timer, and now you can see, yeah, perfect. But the problem is that when this goes down to 0, 0, 0, it's going to go down into minus numbers, which is not what we want. So what we're going to do is if the minutes is smaller than 0, so, oh no, that's the wrong way. If it's smaller than 0, then, because we want to be able to see 0, if we were to do it equivalent, then when it's on 1 minute, when it gets down to the last minute, when it's just seconds, and it says 0 minutes and 50 seconds, whatever, it won't show up because it will see that it's 0, and then we'll change back to the beginning, which is not what we want. So we want to say if it goes to minus numbers, so once that 0 finishes, then we want to run this. So then, I'm going to actually create a variable up here called minutes. So like an actual minutes instead of mins, shortened down. Now we can set the actual time, and then we can do this to minutes. So that means that this value will be changing, but this one isn't. So that means we can just do mins equals minutes. So we can basically just reset the minutes, and then what this will do is instead of having to change it here, so we have to change it every time we want to change the amount of minutes and seconds, instead of having to, let's actually bring this down here, like there, so it's easier to change. Instead of having to change the minutes here and here, we can just change it up here, and then it will automatically run through the system. So now we should see if I change this to 1 minute, let's change this to 0 minutes and 15 seconds. You should see that we're coming down, going down, down, down. Now we got 8 seconds, 7 seconds, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0, 0, and we go back. So we're going back to the 0 minutes because we've set this as 0 minutes, which means it just resets to 0 minutes. If I was to do 5, and then I was to come down here, so look, so that's 5 minutes, and I was to come here and change this to be 0 minutes and 10 seconds. Oh, it's because the loop is running. But you get the point. It'll go down and go down and go down, and it will reset to the original number. And the only reason why I didn't do it that time was because of we had it at 0, so it just went back to 0. But if we was to have it at 5 minutes, go all the way down to 0, it would go back to 5 minutes. So that's how you do the timer. But I was probably wondering if you guys would like to do this in a rounds, like with a round system. And oh, by the way, last thing, this is the system that you want to be using if you want it so that if somebody else joins the game at a last minute time, like when they're halfway through the round or something like that. It will not reset the timer, and it will not break the timer, which is what we want. So, like I said, let's do the round system, so that when this timer gets to 0, we'll have an intermission, and then once the intermission goes away, we can get back up and start again. So it will do the intermission 10 seconds maybe, and then the round will start again. And I can also make it so that it fires something, or you can leave an area so that you can do like a map change or something like that, whatever you want. But if you guys don't want to do that and you just want to make it so that there's no intermission, it just completely changes the round, to simply do that is, depending on how your code is written, all you want to do is when it goes down to 0, it will be here. So this is when it stops, when it goes like to 0, you know, when the timer completely runs out. This is where you can add your code into this area here. So yeah, so that's what we're basically going to be doing. So when the timer comes down to 0, instead of resetting this yet, we're going to change the timer to be a 10-second countdown, and that'll be the intermission. Okay guys, so to do this, we want to simply add a new variable, and we want to call it inter, as in intermission. I'm going to call it, I'm going to give it a value of 0. So basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be detecting whether the intermission is on or off, so that we can tell whether to give 10 seconds or to reset the timer. So this will reset it right now from what we have. But what we want to do is we want to go if inter is equivalent to 0, then this is why we want to add 10 seconds. We want to change the seconds to 10 and the minutes mins to 0. Because if we don't do this, we don't set the minutes, it'll go down to minus numbers. But then we want to do else, so if it's not 0, then why is that there like that? Strange. If it's not there, then so yeah, if it's not there, then if it's not the intermission, or if it is the intermission, then reset the time back. So we want to simply make it so that when it is the intermission, we want to change the intermission value to 1, and when it's not the intermission value, we want to change it to 0. So then what this would do is basically when the intermission is not on, we'll start the intermission and we'll change the value to 1, so that the next time it goes to 0, so after the 10 seconds, it will reset the timer and change it back, so that when this timer runs out, it will run this again, causing there to be a intermission and there to be a normal game, basically. But that's 5 minutes. We don't want that to be 5 minutes. Let's change that to 0 minutes and 15 seconds. And then we should see that when we hop in, it'll count down coming from 15 seconds, and when it hits to 0, it should go to 10 seconds. So we should get an extra 10 seconds, or depending on how long you want it to be, you just need to change that value, or you can set that to be a variable, and then you can change that someplace else. But you should see that when this happens, boom, we go back up. So that was just the intermission. We had an added 10 seconds. Now we're back into the round, and it's counting down from 59 seconds. So that, guys, add 5. Let's change that back to 5. So that, guys, was how you create a timer, or a server-sided timer inside of Roblox Studio, or inside of Roblox, and it's basically a timer that can run on the server side, so that it stays the same the whole time. And little added bonus, I showed you how to add a how to turn it into a timer from a timer for with an intermission, or timer for an actual game zone or something like that. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned something new, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.